Will you pray with me? Through my words, O God, and in our hearts, may we touch the truth. Amen. Please be seated. This day is relentless. We come to Good Friday every year, drawn, pulled, carried to this moment. There is no escaping it. And yet, there is something in us that longs to be here. There is a part of us that cannot stay away from the cross, away from this moment, this sad and horrific death. We are drawn to it. We cannot avoid it. Why? Of all the stories we can tell, of all of the truths we can espouse as people of faith, as Christians, why this one? Why must we come again and again to this sad and terrible death? More than that, why do we want to come again and again to this moment, this broken afternoon? I think we come here because it's true. We come here because there is a rawness about the cross that is real. When we look at, when we remember, when we see Jesus suffering and dying on the cross, we know somehow deep in our souls that this is true. This is real. In a way that all of the comfortable truths and easygoing platitudes with which we so often surround and numb ourselves are not, or not quite. We come here because we have a longing, a desperate need for something that is true, even though it is terrible. We want to see this story play out because we know that in seeing, in remembering the death of the Son of God, we are telling a story about the world and about ourselves that is fundamentally true. We have spent this season of preparation for it, many of us in giving up or setting aside those things which we often take on to numb the pain, to distract ourselves from the truth. And yet, after all of that, we come to this place and we cannot help but see the truth, which is the Son of God dying on a cross, which is a first century itinerant teacher and healer and friend being executed by the state with the collusion of the religious authorities of his own community. There were those watching in the crowd whose eyes Jesus had opened. There were those in the crowd whose ears Jesus himself had unstopped, and now these can hear and see his death. His mother was there. Her son was dying. His friends were there. The beloved disciple and Mary Magdalene. They were there. They bore witness. They could not help it, but they were there because of who Jesus was to them. That's what is so compelling. This is not an abstract story. It is not just some death. We remember it in stained glass and in art and in sculpture and in icons and in... But it is the death of a real person. And that is true. And that is real. And in seeing that death, we see an echo of the truth of the world in which we live today. A world where the innocent, a world where the gears of power, those who would stand against it. A world where cries for peace and healing so often fall on deaf ears. A world where even those who have the power to change things feel themselves constrained by the way things are. There is a strain of violence that runs through our world, a thread of death that keeps our society, our life together. We come to this place because this is one of the only places where we can be honest about that, where we can look at the cross and see in it a reflection of our own selves and our own world. We so often like to think that if we were to meet Jesus in our own time and place, that he would still be alive. I don't know if that's true, but I don't think it is. I think that the thread of violence that brought Jesus to the cross exists still today. Or we would not be here for ourselves, but rather as lookers on at a curious relic of a bygone era. The cross tells us a story about our own world. It tells us about the violence that exists. It tells us about the ways in which innocence is destroyed. It tells us about the ways that our choices and the choices of those in power destroy the creatures of God. And it is simply there. From the cross, Jesus does not accuse us. He does not hang there spitting curses and venom at us, telling us that this is all our fault. Rather, from that place, he looks at us, and we look at him. And we remember that in the world in which we live, it could just as well be us up there. Because we live in a world where these kinds of things happen. We live in a world where crucifixion and death are so very real. Where brokenness is so very true. But it's not us this time. It's him. How else could he be human? How else could he be the God that we need, that we long for? For him to be there, looking at us as we look at him, is the truest thing we can think of when we look at the brokenness of the world. But there is more. John tells us that he looks down from the cross, and his last act before giving up his Spirit is to create a family, is to make sure that his mother and his friend will care for each other, will love each other. With his dying breath, he creates community. With his death, he shares love. And that is what draws us here. Not only the truth of the violence of our world, not only the laying bare of the terror that lives around us, of the brokenness that is all around us, but the possibility, the hope, that beneath even that, there is love. Amen.